everybody to Saturday Stories. This is our monthly series, and we've been bringing it to you virtually since the pandemic started in 2020. And we've continued with this because not only do we have fabulous sponsors that are bringing this program to you for free, you can also join from wherever you are in the world, and also from wherever you are all over the United States. And we can bring our illustrators to you from their art studios from where they live all over the world. So this is a very exciting program that grew out of the pandemic. It used to be obviously in person at the Society of Illustrators, and our museum is quite small, so we wouldn't be able to offer it to quite as wider audience, but we do have a very intimate museum, and if you're ever there, do join us for any of our live programs as well. So I'm Claire Panisse, and it's my pleasure this morning to be introducing you to Melissa Sweet. And Melissa Sweet is in our original art show exhibition, which is currently running. It'll be running just until the 23rd of December. And it's been on actually since the end of October. Melissa is multi-award winning. Let me tell you what a prolific and amazing illustrator she is. She's a very exciting illustrator because she's a multimedia illustrator, which means she uses all kinds of materials. She's a traditional artist. She doesn't work digitally. She loves materials. So hoping you've gathered a few materials yourself this morning. If you haven't, you can color in just on white paper and cut out if you've downloaded our PDF. Tim, who is behind the scenes at the Society of Illustrators, he will be putting things into the chat. So he'll drop in any information about any materials that Melissa's using. And please do, as always, ask questions. If you're new to our program, we offer you to ask any questions that I will then ask Melissa on your behalf during the workshop portion of the program this morning. So we start off with Melissa's presentation and a reading of this fabulous book. So this book is Celia Planted a Garden, and it's the true story of Celia Thaxter. And it's written by two authors. Actually, this is quite the award-winning team. We have two award-winning writers, and we have Melissa Sweet, the illustrator, also award-winning. So just to mention their names, it's Phyllis Root and Gary D. Schmidt. Many books that they've done as well, but this one is about Celia Thaxter, who was a 1900s writer and poet, but was really known for planting a garden in a very desolate place. And as a young child, you'll find out when Melissa reads the book, she actually first grew up in a lighthouse because her father was a lighthouse keeper, and it was very grey and often blustery because this was off the coast of New Hampshire and Maine. But she always found colour. She was always seeking out colour. And when they moved to another location, which was also in a similar area in the Isle of Shoals, they created a hotel there. And this is where Celia grew her garden, and we'll find out more. And it is so beautifully illustrated, as are all of Melissa's books. She's won 2 Caldecott Awards, and one of them was for it's a book about the word, right? The right word, it's called, and it's about Roger Thesaurus, which is fascinating. I can't imagine even getting started with that project, Melissa, but I'm sure you'll touch on some of the research that you do for your books, which are biographies and nonfiction quite often. She's also an author, so she's written books as well as illustrated them. What else can I tell you? Oh, Melissa was last year's Lifetime Achievement Award winner for the Society of Illustrators Original Art. And so this is a huge award. This is because of all the body of work that Melissa has created in her career. She has, I think, published more than 80 books, which is a huge amount of books. Born in New Jersey, now living in Portland, Maine. Melissa's been creating art since a young child, encouraged by her parents. She's also been trained at an art college. She went to art school. So I will let Melissa speak more, but do have your materials ready, do ask questions. And of course, we always invite you, once you've created anything, to please send it in. Tim will put my email into the chat. You can also follow Melissa on her Instagram and check out her website, because she's got lots of amazing, interesting things on her website too, and on YouTube. So without further ado, it's my absolute pleasure this morning to introduce you to Melissa Sweet.
Thank you, Claire, so much. I'm thrilled to be here. It's a snowy day in Maine, and so I can't imagine anything better than to be making stuff with you all. This is all I ever want to do. And I just want to say thank you to everyone at the Society of Illustrators for making this possible. I've had such a nice time with Claire and Tim just putting this together, so I know we're going to have fun today. And if I think someone asked for the PDF in the chat, which probably is no problem, but if you didn't download anything, don't worry, because these forms are super simple. We can do them without the download too. So no worries there. And because it's December and we're in the 12th month, I designed this talk to be 12 things that I've learned about being an artist and making books. And then, as Claire said, I'll segue to Celia. And of course, just throw all the questions at me. I'll happy to answer them as I'm making the craft as well. So I think we're ready to go, Claire. What do you think?
Oh yes, let's go. Please share your presentation with us. Yeah, fabulous.
Okay, sure. Thank you all for your patience as we do the internet part. So I'm going to go back no, I guess I don't need to go back. So welcome to Saturday Stories. And I wanted to tell you a tiny tidbit about myself that will explain how I approach art. And it happened when I was in about second grade, and our teacher had us drawing. And the girl that sat next to me drew the sky from the top of the page all the way down to the grass. And I looked over at her, and my piece was like this, the sky at the top, classic kid-like thing. And I said, that's not right. Corinne does not have this right. So I was walking home with my aunt, and I said to her, Corinne drew the sky all the way down to the grass. And she said, well, look, the sky goes all around us and comes down to that horizon, to the tops of the trees. And I thought, no one ever told me this. And it was it's as if I discovered the moon. And I think from that moment on, I wondered what else is in this world that I don't know about, that I haven't noticed. And my curiosity just went off the charts. So that was my kind of defining moment to wanting to know everything I could about drawing and art. And many of you know my books. They're as Claire said, there's a lot of biographies, and I've been doing it for a number of decades. So my work has changed a lot over the years. But when I began doing collage, I felt as though I had found my path in a big way, and it allowed me to build things and make assemblages and not just paint. Well, that's always a part of it. But with every book, they're so different. And I'll get the manuscript from the publisher. My approach is to look at the materials and the color and how I'm going to work on this book that makes it feel like the person I'm writing about. That's always my go-to. It's not about me, it's about giving them the limelight in this book. So that's a very big, strong feeling for me, because I honor the fact that I get to make these books and bring these people to life. So let's start with number one. And people ask me always, where do your ideas come from? And which comes first, words or images? So ideas are everywhere. You can be walking down the street and get an idea, or read something, or just a movie, basically anything. Ideas are sort of a dime a dozen. It's what we do with those ideas and how we can we actually use them. I love getting them, but I don't always fulfill them. But also, which comes first, words or images? Well, words are images. You can see in this piece that those letter forms are making forms. They're relating to each other. They're as much as a form as a landscape is to my eye. So if I have the chance to put words in my books, I do. I think that it really, it adds a different layer, and I love lettering. So maybe many of you do too. We can talk a little bit more about that. So next thing, play and work equals plork, according to Karita Kent, who was a wonderful artist and teacher. And all these ideas are great, but having a place to make stuff is really important. So this is my studio, and I'm kind of in the back there right now. All my supplies are here. For years, I've kept this fairly tight schedule of starting to work in the morning and going about at least 4 hours and sometimes longer after lunch. But it's those 4 hours that really give me my creative time. I haven't varied on this for all these years. Get up, make some tea, walk the dogs, get set up in the studio, begin, and then afterward, then I'll meet up with a friend or have an appointment or go shopping for dinner, something like that. But those hours are fairly sacred. If I change it up, I don't flip out, but it just works for me to keep that like it is. And I know sometimes people are afraid to call me in the morning, like they're going to interrupt me, and I just ignore it always. So, and my studio also has workstations, which also make everything very possible. Woodworking, printmaking, gosh, I have, reams of paper, all the tools I have. I'm always willing to try a tool, take a class, figure out something new. But truly, there's no excuse to leave this place because I have everything I need in here. You begin with the possibilities of the materials. And Robert Rauschenberg should know he worked very three-dimensionally. And by the way, all these names are going to be in the hands of Claire, and she'll post all this. So don't feel like you need to write a lot down right now. But the materials are very important to me. If I'm doing a book, for instance, on Judith Scott, which I'll talk a little bit about, she wrapped cocoon-like shapes. And I thought about what materials would feel most like Judith Scott. The idea isn't to have every cool idea in the book. The idea is to synthesize it so that I have a constraint. I'm going to use these 5 or 10 things and make the art from that. And that way, I really push the ideas a little further. It's not the first thing that comes to me. I'm very much playing or plurking a lot as I kind of circle around these ideas. And this was a piece that I was playing with how I wanted the Judith Scott book to look. So I got out all my ribbons and yarns. This is the cover of that book because she worked very large. And this is what the title page looked like. So you can see how play can be interpreted in the book as well. Of course, there's a lot of stuff in my studio and a tiny bit of organization. I have these beautiful drawers. So this one says alphabets. Yes, there's all kinds of alphabets in here, but it all gets fairly mixed up. And once in a while I go through it, and once in a while I get rid of a lot of stuff and say, I'm not using that anymore. I'm too dependent on it. I want to start something new. Being organized is good to a point, but I always say perfection's overrated, so I don't worry too much. This is a short film I did for the Society of Illustrators, actually, to say thank you. And you can see I'm just fast forwarding, a good half hour worth of cutting, playing, making letters. The fun of it, making art is really the making of art. Computers are essential, but not so much in the making, I don't think. It's a tool, it's a beautiful tool, but it's not going to make my book creative, really. Glue and attach. All these wild materials need different ways of attaching. So I'm showing you just a few things. I'll screw something down, I'll nail it. Tacky glue and Yoo-hoo glue are probably my best. If I can sew, if it's about somebody, I did Brave Girl was about a seamstress named Clara Lemlich, and there's a lot of sewing in that book. But one thing I want all of you who do collage to see up here at the top, there's a beautiful roll, and it's called Goody, G-U-D-Y. And this is a double-sided paper that's sticky on one side. So you place your art on it and cut around it like you make a form, cut it out. It's like almost like making paper dolls or something. But then you can peel the back and stick it down. And this is a lifesaver, so I want you to know about it. And the place it comes from is also in the link. It's called Talus. They make beautiful bookbinding supplies. So in a book like Balloons Over Broadway, there's a whole lot of things being attached in this. They're very three-dimensional. So can you scan this? No. These pieces have to be, they have to travel, they have to be strong. They're pieces of art, so nothing's going to fall off. They go to a photographer in Massachusetts, and then the scans of those are what the art department works with. So I'm only as good as my photographer, really. Those of you who know me and look at my work, you see the full fledge of the color wheel. Pretty obsessed with the color wheel. So I want to show you though someone we looked at when I was in college, and it's still fun to look at now. This is Joseph Albers, who was a wonderful artist, designer, and teacher. This is a color study, and it's divided pretty much down the middle, although you might not think so if you kind of gaze at it. But looking at those two orange squares, they look fairly different. I see that one looks lighter, the one on the red looks lighter, and it almost looks a little bigger to my eye. But in fact, those are the same orange squares, same color, same size. This is interesting because when we have a color that we like, what we put it next to is very important. Things change, and they change not only in our art, and they change in the printing, but we can play with that. We can emphasize something by using a very specific palette. And of course, my palette is watercolor, all of those colors. I don't restrict my colors at all. And some are acrylic, they're colored pencils, pastels, oil pastels, etc. Basically anything I think I can get my hands on. And many of you know this thing about pink has become bigger than me, but I do really love this color. It goes well with everything. On the left, you'll see green, which is the opposite of red. So I'm playing with pinks and greens there. Notice how many colors I can get out of pink, just mixing pink and green. So it's really why my palette is fairly big. So record, research, document. This year, I had the great pleasure and honor to be in a beautiful program to become a Maine naturalist. So this was a year-long program learning about the natural world, and all the communities in the natural world, our place in it. And though I don't always keep sketchbooks, I was hyper vigilant this year. So it's always been helpful to me to look at the natural world and record it in any way. And early in my career, I was able to do this book about John James Audubon, but there was no way I could have done this book without being prepared by taking a sketchbook outside and noticing, really, just recording and noticing. And that led to this page in the book, which is an example of how I wanted the book to feel as if we were in John James Audubon's studio. I got to see his studio. Always I go somewhere when I have to do a book, so I wanted it to feel like that. Set aside time to do something creative. That is part of our job in a way. Years ago, I did The Artist's Way. It wasn't actually that many years ago. It's been out for more than 25 years, but I wanted to see what all the hubbub was about. And the author gives this suggestion of taking oneself on an art date every week. And it could be by yourself. I choose to do it by myself. It's very much an art date with me, but I'll go anywhere, see a gallery, go out and draw, go to art supply store, see maybe just one show at our local museum, travel, do anything, but something to get me out of the studio and thinking about the work I'm doing. My favorite author is E.B. White. This is from Some Writer. He wrote that write for an audience of one. And if anyone here has read E.B. White's work, you know that he had a conviction to saying exactly what he wanted to say and living the life he wanted to live, which is incredibly inspiring. So we're writing for an audience of one, we're writing to please ourselves, we're making art to please ourselves. That's the distinction from one artist to another, is that if you're engaged and loving what you're doing, you're absolutely on the right path. I think that making art by hand helps that a bit. So this one is me, exactly, do something for no reason. And when my dog had her birthday rather, I wanted to have her have an ice cream cone that I didn't have to hold it and didn't have to throw it in her bowl. And so I thought, how can I take my drill and create a rotating ice cream cone? And of course, that was like the highlight of my day. Yes. So the possibility for learning never disappears. I say this because I love this piece. I recently reread Call of the Wild by Jack London, and it's a hard book to read, but it's a brilliant book. But taking classes and learning from other people, getting together with other artists is part of what makes my art richer and positive. And recently I got together with 4 women, and they were all professionals. And what we did was make pom-poms. We were 4 professional women with busy lives making pom-poms, but that was an amazing experience because we got to talk for hours. And so there's value in learning anything. This was a year of classes for me, for sure, but they all are. We are storytellers. We all have the books we do are telling stories about someone who was telling a story about something else. It means we connect with each other, we create communities. It's how we learn. So whether we're dancing or doing a sport, playing an instrument, writing a play, it doesn't really matter. Stories are part of what makes us human and humane, I believe. And I can't stress that enough. It's a big part of what makes life worth living. So I'm going to leave you at this part with Mary Oliver's wise words. Pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. Those were her edicts for writing her beautiful poetry. And I think basically that's all we have to do. We don't have to accomplish too much. Just notice what's going on outside and be astonished, and let that be fodder for our art. We can talk more about Celia for sure, but this was that thank you that I made earlier with all my cutting. So I want to thank you for being such good listeners. I think we'll segue to the craft, right, Claire?
Yes, wonderful. That was so amazing. I'm clapping for all the audience.
I know, I love, Celia was amazing. You know, I'll just say that here she was raising a family and writing poetry, and she basically ran that hotel, which had tons of people coming out, all sorts of writers you all would recognize. And I think Emerson was out there, and all, you know, a lot of literary figures. So she led a busy life, and I'm glad she didn't slip through the cracks. She deserved a book of her own, for sure. So thank you. Yeah.
And she sort of was one of the leaders of writing about nature, right?
Well, I think so, yes. I'm going to wait a second. I just need to find you now that I've closed the slideshow. Can you see me?
We just need you to fully close. Oh, you know what? Stop sharing screen. That's all.
Oh, gosh. Okay,
That's
great. Thank you. That was easy. Okay.
Fantastic. We are live, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So should we move over to the craft?
We can move over, yes, and do ask any questions and get yourselves all situated. Melissa's going to move to her other table where she's got her phone set up so you can see her hands moving. And while she's doing that, I'll show you what I've got prepared, because I'm going to try and do this along with you all, as well as answer any questions that you may have. And I just want to say a shout out to some familiar names: Toma, Dana, Katie, I have Amelia and Lucy joining from Bar Harbor. I have students that are joining from the New York area, who I just mentioned, and lots of other people. I think we have someone from Guatemala even, that's so exciting. Lots of people from up in the area of Maine, lots of fans, lots of clapping, Melissa, lots of swooning, lots of wonderful mentions of how fantastic this is. We all knew at the Society of Illustrators that Melissa would give you an amazing behind the scenes of how she does her colorful, textured, amazing, inspiring collages. Don't you just want to start collaging? So just to remind you all that obviously you can only do so much in a morning live program, but we are going to upload this video so that you can revisit it on our YouTube channel. And that way, maybe, you know, you get more inspiration for doing some collages, and you can just revisit Melissa's, you know, showing how she does it and all her advice, and just take a bit more time looking at it at another time. So I've got, just so that you can see I'm trying as well, I've got a napkin and it says yay on it. So yay to Melissa, but this has got some fun little spots on it. I've got some old wallpaper, love that. I've got a bit of wrapping paper. I've also got like just plain paper and colored pencils. You know, it's always good, as you all know who've joined us before, we use simple art materials. Everybody should have crayons or hopefully colored pencils at home. You might even have markers. So Melissa makes a lot of her papers that she cuts out. So she might be painting them. As you know, she does wood blocks. She showed you that, and cutting out from old magazines, using postcards. It's really fun to collect things. And obviously she does even collages using materials that she's found in nature, found objects, buttons. She's been collecting for years. I mean, her art studio must be fascinating, going into her drawers, seeing what she's got in those drawers. But you might have, you know, some marker pens. These ones are two-sided. We have a thick end and a thin end, but any markers that you have, that could be good too. And you can just, you know, color in later if you're going to cut your bird out, or just draw a bird. This is a three-dimensional bird that Melissa's created on her PDF. And I believe you should be able to see it now in the chat if you didn't get it yet. I think Tim will be, yeah, there it is. I see he's put it in. So if you have time now, you can quickly download that and print it up. If you don't, you can do it later. But this is what the PDF looks like. It's just shapes of the bird that Melissa's cut out. The book is amazing. All of Melissa's books are amazing. Very worth collecting because you can pore over them over and over again, and you learn a lot in her books, as well as them being visually an absolute treat. So Melissa is somewhere. I see her chair there. How are you doing, Melissa? And what else can I be? I'm going to look at some questions. Do pop some questions in. I also have some questions which I will enjoy asking her as well. So I'm just going to, whilst you're doing that, Melissa, I'm just going to let you know some of the comments that we have. Jan said the lacy doily around the wedding image was brilliant, and she wanted to know what made you think of that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, first I'm just going to say, I'm going to start, and can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you know what, let's start, everybody, and then I'll ask questions. Let's have Melissa start. Yeah, this looks great, Melissa. We can see everything very clearly. Wonderful.
Holler if you can't hear me. I hope you can, but I'll try not to talk too much, but I have to talk a little. So yeah. I'm going to start with a very simple strip of paper, and it says simple bird folded here. And I'm going to, if you have this, you could cut it out. But if you don't have it, all you need is a strip of paper to make this bird. And I'll tell you the truth, this is my favorite bird. So I'm going to cut it out of this pink paper. And that I'll mention the doily while I'm cutting this out. I think I saw a cloth doily in something I was looking at when I was researching this book, and I loved it. So I think that's what I just thought, oh, you know, it would be just a fun thing for their wedding picture. It's funny, when you get going on a book, you kind of just make quicker decisions and you don't overthink it really. So basically this bird, you can see it up here. I'll show you how we do it. Basically, you're just going to wrap one end over the other, and push it through like this, and then sort of snuggle around with it. Have it and kind of decide which is the head and which is the tail. It doesn't matter because we're going to cut it, but we're going to kind of snug up that knot. And I'm using a fairly stiff paper, but you don't have to. I'll show you other ones that I made that are not a stiff paper. So this one's giving me a little bit of a hard time, but not bad. And I'm okay with that. And actually, weirdly, I kind of like this long tail. So here's where I'm going to just decide, here's the tail. There's a lot of birds that have a long tail. And then I'm going to cut a little beak out. And you don't have to cut it anywhere. You can cut it however you like. You don't have to cut it how I'm doing it. But that's just, you can also glue a little beak on there. So I love this for its simplicity. Here here's one that I colored the beak and put some feathers up, feather wings made out of old music paper. So this one looks very much like that one. Here's one just cut more simply. But
really
I really love it. And you can just put a little ribbon around it here to hang them. You don't have to put a face on them. So those are my really, really simple ones. And then I started, of course, finding cool paper that I thought, I love the writing on this paper, of course. So I cut a little wing. I just was, I was going to say winging it, and I don't mean that to be a pun, but that is what happened. I was winging it. And I would glue this little wing right in here and tie it up and hang it. And so I'll do that right now while you're here watching me. So I hope this is as easy as it looks. Basically, you've got a strip of paper that you're tying in a knot. That is it. So here's the little wing on there.
Yeah, that's very clever. I did my little one out of my wallpaper. So I'm working away with you guys. So
that's good. You can see how cute and so simple. So
love it. You can also so Melissa, just for those who might not have all the wonderful collage paper at hand, they can create their own designs. I mean, you do that in your studio quite often, right? You make your own papers. You can color your bird. You can maybe make a white bird and then color your bird in.
Exactly. You could use newspaper, but you could use. I think it'd be really fun just to cut a strip of white paper and color your bird. Make it exactly. Of course, yes, that's a great idea. And the more I did this, the more ideas I got. So I thought it was superbly fun to just play. And if I were going to keep doing this, they'd be wilder and wilder, believe me. So basically, I mean, these can go anywhere. I have a branch. Should I show you the branch that I got?
Well, yes, show us everything because we've got plenty of time. You could even make a white one and color it in if you feel so inclined. Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. Wow.
This is a branch with no leaves on it. And basically the leaves are just crepe paper or tissue paper would work, just glue gunned on there. So this will be the branch that I'll hang them from a doorway. This is nothing special whatsoever. But that's all I would do. We're having a stormy day here, so branches are going to be very easy to find. So can you hear me okay when I turn?
Yeah, I was just wondering about that. I'm just asking. I think some people maybe when you possibly walked away had trouble at that specific moment. But I think in general, I can hear. So I'm hoping you can all hear. Make sure the volume is turned all the way up on your own devices. Because obviously if you've got that low, that's not going to be very helpful. But I actually have heard everything you've said, Melissa. So I'm hoping, yes, I've got somebody says, we can hear. Thank you, Jennifer. So I'm going to let Melissa keep creating in front of your very eyes. And I'm going to, and she can also, you know, Melissa, if ever you want to talk about other books, you can as well if we get more time, because your books are just so inspiring. I mean, I'm going to ask you questions about all of quite a few of your books, but oh, look at that paper. That's from a page of a book.
This is just a page of an old book, yes.
Very
And
nice.
yeah, it's basically tying a knot. So I'll do one for you. And I'm not even going to measure. Oh, I don't need to. I know it's about an inch. And I'm just going to cut this paper. And basically I'm tying a knot. That's all I'm doing. And I think these come out so sweet. But there's a lot more you could do to these birds too. So here it is again. I'll get this out of the way. Basically, I'm just folding it over and tying the simplest of knots. And it's fun to see what you come out with, really. You might have to push it around a little bit to get enough for the head. This paper is fairly brittle because it's from an old book, but it would be fine to get it from a magazine or any scrap paper that you have. I think, oh, so there I actually that didn't work because the paper is so old and brittle.
Yes, it's always a bit trial and error.
Yeah, but it's okay if I'm careful, and I'll just fold it before I go too far with this because it's kind of cracking in the fold, but that's okay. That's kind of the fun part of old papers. And so here I'll just do the head again with a little beak. And I mean, I would even leave it like that. I think that's a cute beak, but I'm going to make it a little rounder.
It's such a great technique of I would never have thought of tying a strip of paper to make a bird. That's really effective.
Hanging them, they're just adorable. And so here's just a piece of scrap paper I've had around, and I would even just glue that wing right there. You don't have to fold it or anything. So tie a little ribbon or string to it or ribbon. I have one here, as you saw. So these could really be anything you want. And then, of course, you could open a bird book and say, oh, I really actually want to make a nuthatch. So I'm going to then go and even maybe, color the cap of the head or draw in the wing. And you could start with just white paper, newspaper, anything, and just.
Yeah, I'm doing that. I'm just coloring with my marker to make my wing red. So on your template, Melissa, is there several different bird options?
Yes, there's another bird option too. And this one is a little more, this one has a template that, let's see. So this is a, here it is, sorry. This is the, so this is the other template that I loved, and it will make this sort of bird with its wings can go out or not. There's endless possibilities for this little bird, but I'm going to take this old bag. So this was a catalog that came of some kind, and I love these blues. So I thought, okay, I'm going to make a bird from this. And I basically just cut out the collage bird. And in this case, I'm going to put the tail. I'm going to use, I have a beak and a tail on this one. And I've also been adding my own beak and tail, and I'll show you how to do that. But promise me you'll just have fun making these up. There's no rule like this, right? So
I'm loving it. It's wonderful. I mean, I'm just, audience, I just want to show you, I just did this little birdie from the folded, and I just colored in some parts that were just white paper. But yeah, look, it's so cute. So this you could use as a little tree ornament if you do decorate a tree for your holidays, or hang in a window. How lovely to hang in a window, or on a branch like Melissa showed us the branch. Fantastic. Love this. Very exciting.
The simpler the better in my mind. So here's what I've ended up with. I've got these beautiful blues, and I could cut out that tail, and I could cut off this beak, and I'm going to show you why. You don't even have to worry about the beak. If you want to put a different color on there, this is a really easy way to do it. So I just cut off that beak. Sorry, little guy. And I'm going to just put a little glue on this square of paper that I folded in half. So just on one side a little bit. And then I'll glue it down. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then I'm going to fold it back on itself. So all of a sudden, we're going to get this really nice instant beak. And my scissors will help me craft a nice little shape. They're kind of stubby beaks like nuthatches, which I really like actually too. So these, the wings for these are kind of a saddle, and I like these a lot. So we've got our bird. I'll lay it down, push these out of the way. And I think I'll take this, I've got some purple paper here. And what we're going to make are these wings. So these could be made any way you want to make them. You can go crazy with these. And there's no reason why you couldn't add ribbons or anything to these. I'll show you some other ideas I have in a minute. So basically, here's my bird. And I'm going to just kind of eye a little half circle here that will kind of be the back of the bird using this really nice purple. So it's almost a circle, just as this is almost a circle. And I'm going to glue this right here. You don't have to, you could have it a little bit up if you like. You don't have to have it completely glued down. So you can see here I've got this newspaper paper, and I often glue on some kind of scrap paper like this just to have the mess be in one place and not get too sticky. So I really love the colors of this blue bird turned out. And I'm going to put those back wings on it. There isn't any reason why you couldn't take a color and draw some wing feathers in here. I would. I'm going to.
I'm very getting into care. I'm really loving, I'm actually making a little bluebird as well. But I'm going to look at some questions, Melissa, if you just wouldn't mind answering a few. I saw some things here. Oh, that's nice. So Jan is asking, how do you know how to balance realistic with imaginative flowers? She loved the mix. So yeah, that's a good question, Jan.
That is a good question, Jen. One of the things I do is I'll look at a flower and see what I like about it. So maybe I like that there's 5 petals, or it's yellow with an orange center. So then I'll really play with what I want to do. That's the beauty of making something by hand, is that it doesn't have to be realistic. It just should feel like what it feels like to look at that flower, in my opinion. And whatever details speak to you are the details to add, and no more, no less. That's the artist's prerogative. So I do have a garden and I look at flowers a lot, but I'll even, like, for instance, I think I looked at Linnaeus's flowers in order to do this book, thinking that maybe Celia might have looked at that book, because I was looking for reference. Most of my books have a fair amount of reference, but it just depends where I feel stuck, where I feel as if I don't know or I need an idea. That's why I use reference. I need more ideas, or I need to find out more. And there's really no end to that, but eventually you have to say enough and really get to work.
Yes, so that's a really good actually topic, is like, how do illustrators use reference? And you're an illustrator that absolutely needs to use some reference, because this is a true story biography and set in real places. But this is the beauty of being an illustrator rather than a photographer, for example, is that you interpret that reference and that research that you do, and give it that emotion and that spirit that is your feeling about how, yeah, just as you said, like, how does that flower make you feel? And then you can add it, sort of the lightness or the depth of it or the shape of it, is your interpretation. That's the beauty of being an artist, right? So I have a question from our guest from Guatemala. I'm not quite sure if I can pronounce their name correctly. Dij. Which is your process of analyzing the page layout? Oh yes, because there's a lot going on in your pages. So do you have a process? Are you just moving things around visually, sort of instinctively Can you speak to that, Melissa, a little bit?
Sure. Yes, there's a lot of moving around. Oh my goodness, tremendous. So much so that my dummies, the preliminary book, really doesn't look like you would never know I made that art from the dummy because it's completely different. But I like that a lot. I didn't really get into my dummies here, but in the way that my dummy
Mm-hmm.
looks so different from this, a line drawing, and you
Mm-hmm.
really don't know what's going on, but you end up with a bird like this. So that's the good news, bad news about doing collage. You have, the reference is invaluable, but you have to take it into your own hands at a certain point and really craft it.
Mm-hmm.
I do preliminary work. Let's say a book takes me 6 months. I say 5 of those months are playing in the studio trying to figure it out. And once I get to the point where there's, it's the deadline is really, I'm up against the deadline big time.
Yeah.
And I really am trying to keep that deadline. I work faster and those decisions come quickly. So I make those decisions and go with it. And
Yes.
it's kind of in the acting of it that makes me kind of fall in love with it. So that's how I'm working. And
yes, it's plork, as you said, plork. You're playing and working.
Playing and working, exactly. But if I were to, let's just say, I want to say this about the computer because unfortunately for me, there's so many choices on the computer that I would be out of my mind. And one reason to work by hand is to limit the possibilities. And I mean, as you know, there's like possibilities are endless, but this way at least I don't have infinite possibilities. So yeah.
Yes, well, you've already got quite a lot of inspirational materials to choose from anyway. So yeah, I think I agree, because when you come to digital, there are so many tools for brushes and textures. And digital artists are amazing, by the way. In the original art show right now, if you get a chance to see this in person, you'll see that digital artists have such an incredible technique that you wouldn't know it was digital art, actually. So that is a technique. It's different from working traditionally with materials, because some artists really love to work with things with their hands. I appreciate that so much as well. Jennifer has a question relating to this. Do you have a preference as to where you begin your collage? Is it with a figure, an object, or the background? That's a very good question. Would Melissa begin with the background, for example, and then layer on top? So what do you do, Melissa?
That's an excellent question. I love that you asked that question. Yes, I definitely do the background first. And I think about it all at once, but I do the background first. And because of all the things I do, I find people the most challenging to craft, that I have to make sure I know exactly where they're going to be and what they're going to be doing, and keep them loose so that I mean, my style is not realistic. So how do I get in the mindset that I'm drawing them and collaging them in a way that is fairly loose? So I start with the background, but not too heavy duty. I'm going to come back to it, but I get it kind of everything set up. And then I'll go in, and the people are last. The people are all white they're like white paper for me. But I leave them to last, and because I have a lot of other stuff to think about, really.
Yes.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it once, really, but dealing with sections, I am so much slower than I used to be. Honestly, it's taking me a lot longer to make a book, and I can't explain why, but I need about 6 or 7 months easily to do this work, because I change my mind all day long.
Yeah, you're getting really into the materials and the inspiration. I guess it might depend on the book slightly as well, or did this pandemic slow you down a bit? After all, you were many books this is what we were amazed about for our original art show this year, 2022, is the amazing books that were produced during such difficult times. You know, artists working without as much interaction as they might have, or even being able to get out and get materials and research as much as they would have done. Publishers were having more difficulty getting books actually printed because of shortages and delays, but we have an amazing show this year. Melissa's one of the illustrations from the book, I'll just quickly give you a preview, is live in the art show hanging. It's this beautiful spread here, and if you get to go to the gallery, you'll see that there. I would like to just mention something whilst I get a moment. This is the very first year that we've done a little recorded tour with a PDF download. And this is for teachers at schools or educational groups. So if any of the parents, or if we have librarians or teachers in the workshop this morning, or students who might be able to connect with their teachers, please do send me an email and let me know who I could reach out to send them the link. This is by fee because it's a lot of work to do a video, and we would send you how much that would be, and you get a lot of things with that as well. So it's a classroom program which has a taster of this year's show. We have a lot of illustrators in the show. I think it's about 232. 6 award winners, and it's just amazing. Melissa's been in the show many years. Oh, Melissa, have you frozen? Oh no, you just you just holding everything. I just thought, oh gosh. Yes. Okay, so we're on to another little bird idea here. Yes, carry on.
I have these coasters somebody gave me, which I never used, and I love the letters. They're letterpress printed. They're beautiful. But
Beautiful,
what to
yeah.
do to a bird? So I cut this in half very easily, and I was playing with the 2 sides. And all I did was make a rectangle for the tail and a squarish for the beak. And I glued everything, and I'm just going to close it in half. So we got the beginnings of a bird here, and I can make that a little tighter there. And now instead of having the beak be part of the template, I'm going to just cut out a little beak here like this, which I love. And I'll just cut a little notch out of the tail like a bird's tail would be, and I'll open it up because I didn't glue it too much there. And now I know this is going to come as a big surprise, and I'm going to make a pink wing. So I'm not even using the template for the wing, although there is a template for a wing, a pattern for the wing on this template. And feel free to use it. But I'm just gonna kind of keep this very geometric, and I'm maybe making sort of a half circle with a little tail feather that goes up. And this might be a case where we can draw on this a little bit, and maybe it's a little more orangey. And this could also have a saddle like I made with this one, where you put the purple over it. Surely could have that. And I'm going to keep this. Oops, 1 second. Sorry about that. So I'm gluing this feather, this wing on, and I'm just gluing a little bit. You don't need to have the glue on everything. And I'm going to leave it like that. You know who these remind me of, actually, is the artist Charlie Harper.
Oh, yes. Yes.
These kind of Harperish. Yeah.
Yes.
I love them. And then I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, because I really like that kind of lime green beak. And I'm just going to add that to the tail feathers. You could go crazy with these birds. You could do so much to them. And
this is so inspiring, so true. Oh yeah, another question. Moni Hadley is asking, do you sketch everything out first? And how detailed do you sketch in your thumbnails or dummies? And do you happen to have any examples at hand to show?
Yes, I do have dummies. Oh gosh. Can you hang on a second while I get them? Can you keep talking, Claire, for 1 second?
Yes. So for those of you who don't know who Charlie Harper is, check Charlie Harper out, because using a lot of those lettering images is so cool. I I'm just going to share with you that I've done 2 birds so far. I've done my one out of wallpaper, and then I just colored this in, this little guy. I cut it out of white paper and just used marker and did the saddle effect, you know, with the wings. So working away with you guys, here's some birds, very, very fun this morning. I am very excited to get some more collage materials. So do please send in your scans, or take a picture with a phone and send in something for us to see. Melissa would love to see what you create. Even if you do birds. Anything inspiring.
Sure. And don't forget, you can go outside and get a stick like I got, add some leaves, and they're going to be amazing. So yes, I'll show you this dummy briefly. I spoke about Unbound in, I think there was a piece last year in the show from Unbound, actually. I might have been the cover, in fact.
Yes.
So here's an example of my dummy that says paste down. And I'm a little embarrassed to show you this, but I'm not really embarrassed because this is what it is. This is a scene from, they're laying on the couch, and I'll show you that scene in the book. They're little kids looking up at the night sky, and by this point in the book, Judith has yet to say a word. So this is a beautiful, beautiful story about this lovely child with Down syndrome that they didn't know she had Down syndrome till she was much, much older, in her 40s. And here she is making her sculptures, which is such a, I feel this book is such a tribute to the power of making art. Here's somebody who never spoke a word, and she was deaf. They didn't know she was deaf. Really hard story to think about when you think about it. So that, and she made art the last 20 years of her life in California and was with her twin sister. But it was the resilience of the human spirit to me, this book, and the power of making art with other people. So here's that piece in the book, and it was a night scene, but I'm not going to worry about any of that in my dummy. I just want to get the gist of it. And then I'm going to craft that couch. I want to make sure that couch feels like what I want. I don't whip things off. I kind of think about each object, and the trees were particularly fun. I don't know if you can see that, but they were just strips of paper with oil-based crayon kind of on them. And it's unusual for me not to go crazy. And when I leave something like that, I'm much happier. So I don't know why that is, but yeah.
So do you here, and I just want like taking something out, like when they say, like, if you've gone out and you put too much jewelry on, just take something. You know, that's sort of, you're like, it is, yeah, people can get too busy maybe, and then you, like, when you pare it back, you can be actually quite thrilled with that as well. So
sure, I guess there is that. I think that in time, your interest in aesthetic changes, and you know, maybe you want a lot of detail. Maybe one book calls for a lot of detail, and another one does not. Yeah. So it's fun to see how one's work changes, but that's easier to happen, I think, with collage. I think the materials you use and the way you cut, like these are super simple, simple.
Amazing. Amazing.
So I'll go back over here. I wanted to show you one more thing. If you like to make.
Thanks for sharing that, Melissa. That was really wonderful. Moni says thanks for sharing. She'd love to see the process and how large actually the spreads are that you're creating. And as far as Unbound, Kim was saying it's such a beautiful book. I know a lot of your fans are in the workshop this morning, and they're very familiar with your gorgeous books. I think Rebecca was the one saying swooning, and Kim was saying swooning. And we have fantastic, beautiful, amazing, so many lovely comments, Melissa, for you this morning.
Well,
very appreciative audience. Oh, I think it was Kim possibly who said maybe you should be doing a Charlie Parker book. Not Charlie Parker. What did I do? Hang on.
You never know. Yeah, that'd be fun. I just
Charlie Harper. I think I actually said the saxophone player, Charlie Parker, by mistake. Yeah, Charlie Harper.
Harper, right, Charlie Harper. See his work everywhere now, Charlie Harper. He's no longer alive, but they've taken a lot of his work and made it into lots of products. I did want to show you too, there's no reason why you couldn't put a button for the eye. I kind of love that because the black is coming through. So play and have fun. There's nothing serious about these birds. And the beauty is, before I show you one last bird, the beauty is that when you put a bunch of them together and you start to get your menagerie, you hang them from a stick, they're gonna be so fun and festive and really nice, in my opinion, for winter. These makes winter, we have a rough winter here, so I'm always looking at the birds. I did want to show you briefly, while I've got your attention, that there's you saw one here. I'm not putting my finger on it, but one here had a string. This is it, that I just took a needle and went through here I went up through the side, but there isn't any reason why you couldn't just take a bird and put a needle through this fold and get the needle out the other side. Good luck. And then tie off the bird to hang it that way too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, you can even punch a little hole up here.
Right, yeah, thinking that. Yep. Perfect.
Making these saddles, one last thing, you could double side them, and then you have these beautiful colors that are kind of flittering about.
Oh, so yeah, flying, yes, flying birds.
Flying birds, we love that. As much as we love winter here, we look forward to spring like you can't believe. So I wanted to show you this last bird that if you have a template, it's easier, but if you don't have a template, it's a-okay. And something fell off my table, so hang on 1 minute right there.
Okay. So I hope you're all having fun this morning. Don't forget, please send us some pictures. We'd love to see.
Send pictures, I'm begging, yes. So I wanted to show you this template is the pop-up one that I mentioned we would be making, and in pink, and it looks like this.
Oh, wow.
And you know what, that beak is bothering me. I'm going to make it a little smaller. It just looked like a goose, and I would rather it look like a songbird. So anyway, these are easy. Let's make one together. And if you don't have a template, just take a piece of paper, even Xerox paper, and fold it in half, and you can follow along with me. Are we okay for time, Claire? Can we do this one last one?
Yes, absolutely. Perfect. I'm so excited about this one. A flying bird. Who knew, right? From our PDF, we didn't know what we were going to see and make. It's so exciting. I love the reveal, the magic.
Three-dimensional quality is really fun. Now, here's my fold. So I just took a piece of, this is a little bit like, it's not cardstock, but it's heavier than Xerox paper, but whatever you have is fine. And I just wanted to show you too, I showed you this tool earlier in my slideshow. This is a bone folder, and I use this quite a lot. Bone folders have a lot of purposes when you're doing collage. You can, scooch the glue down, and you really actually need something like that, but they're just great for folding as well. So I'm going to hold the fold towards me, and I'm going to place this just lightly. You can see the fold here is a dotted line, and whenever you're doing pop-ups, the dotted line means fold and the solid line means cut. And I'm going to send you a link to this wonderful man, Paul Jackson, who has many pop-up books. So if you're interested in making more things that kinetic pieces out of paper, couldn't be more fun. So I'm going to start with the beak and kind of make this shape over here. And though I like these wings, I'm going to kind of do what I want, basically. The wing shape kind of how I want rather than how I drew, but how I drew is perfectly fine. And then the trick is to stop when you get to that dotted line, and definitely don't cut the dotted line. If you cut the dotted line, start over. So this is the dotted line. In fact, I'm going to highlight that with a little bit of orange pastel. So there's your dotted line. I even said so. And we're going to go from there. So now I'm going to just, this is probably the hardest cut right here. And then make my way to this cloud shape. So it has something to stand on. So you can keep cutting. And this is not too hard, and really doesn't have to be perfect at all. And here's a nice parallel line for the edge of the paper. So now I've got this cut out. And I'm going to discard, well, actually, I'm not going to discard this yet. So I lay this down, and I've emphasized this dotted line. So the fold is here. Now this is going to be a fold. So what I'm going to do is just kind of eyeball it and fold it back. And it's at a little bit of an angle. The angle is sort of like this, right here, where I just showed you. So that's the fold, if you can see that. And
Oh, yeah.
it's really, that really is in the pattern. So what I'm going to do there now is take the bird, and I'm going to fold it there just gently. Just kind of push it with my 2 fingers. And then I'm going to do it the other way and push like that. So we want to open this card up. Like
Oh, it's so good. Even in white, it's quite lovely. Yeah, could be a dove. Lovely. So I'm very excited. I'm going to give you a quick news flash because Jennifer has sent in 3 birds that she's created, and I think Tim might be able to share them in the chat, just so some of you can not be afraid, don't be shy, send something in to us. That's so exciting. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing your birds. That's wonderful.
Okay, thank you for being patient with me. I just saw something totally fine.
Yeah.
But I forgot to show you the tail, so I'll get rid of this. I'll get rid of this fold line. Ignore that. So here's the tail. Is this section right here, and that needs to be cut up to that dotted line. My sincere apologies.
Oh, right. Okay, got that. I see that.
Now we can throw it. Now we can discard, set aside the pattern, and over the bird. But we want the bird to kind of be flying towards us. So here's where your pre-folding is very nice. And we're going to take the bird and make it go the other direction. And now when we fold the clouds towards us, the bird has its own little folds, and we have this wonderful bird kind of flying in space.
Oh, I just amazing.
It's really the only 2 folds are right there that you need to be concerned about, because the rest, because if you remember, it looked like this. And then we cut that away, and you can just kind of push it, and it will do its own thing. And these are actually superbly beautiful, I think. And I like making them out of white, but I also made it out of pink. Would I collage this? Oh, you bet I would. I would do anything with this. I would also make a card out of this.
Yes, I was going to say, actually, Melissa, that would make a lovely card to send somebody a message. Yeah. It's sort of actually talking with students just this week about, we were talking about doves and pigeons and homing pigeons, you know, sending messages. This is like it. This is how you could send your own very own homing pigeon bird with a message. I love it. I really love it.
You could collage it. You could add paper to it, ribbon, buttons, feathers, whatever you would like. But I'm going to keep this one sort of simple so you can see the shape. And here I'll show you. This is interesting. So the paper, and look at the light on it. Gosh, it's pretty.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's so beautiful. Yes.
So the other thing I'll show you, I'll set that up, is that I made one out of this old sheet music. It's actually not that old, but you know, I cut it exactly as we did and folded it. But here's an example of where the paper is a little bit flimsy, and it's really not sitting. It sits okay, but it's not quite as up in the air as, well, it's not bad, but it's not quite as stiff as this one, and it has its own charm, I must say.
Yeah. Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean,
So what's wonderful about this is that you'll be able to watch Melissa's video that's going to be uploaded on the Society of Illustrators YouTube sometime next week. I think we'll get that out, and so you can hopefully get, I think it'll be done by Wednesday, so that's exciting. You can maybe make a card or a tag for a present, you know, that's nice too.
Yes, tags would be great. I'm just going to come back to here for a second and say that please put your spin on this. This is the best part about collage, is that you can just run with this and do anything you want. I know, I can't wait to see what you do. I really do hope you post these things. It's really thrilled to see what people.
Yes, and very exciting to just get, yeah, inspired by this. As Melissa said, this is for you to be finding your materials and your spin on it. And so, Jen just said Paul Jackson did pop-up books. What did Paul Jackson, could you speak to him about him a little?
Yes. So here's an example. So this is that bird from Paul Jackson's pop-up book. Paul Jackson has done so many beautiful books. This one is very hands-on and step by step. Some of the other ones, I don't have any right in front of me, but I'm sure I have every Paul Jackson book. And this past year, I took a paper engineering class. So I'm just kind of going through Paul Jackson books and making stuff for the fun of it. It's just working with paper is so much fun to me. We made really funny things like this 3-dimensional kind of a fidget toy. So this was all part of this one class. That class is with Kelly Anderson, who lives in Brooklyn. I'm just telling you, for anybody who thinks you want to learn paper engineering, I think she's doing one more paper engineering class, so go for it if you're inclined. It's fantastic. Well, happy to answer any questions before. I know we're winding up soon, right?
Oh, yes, we are getting towards the end. Actually, one question, when you were doing your presentation, you mentioned something called Gaudi, I think it was called. G-O-U-D-I.
G-U-D-I.
Sorry, G-U.
Yeah, G-U-D-I. And I've got a list, very long list for Claire of all that. And this is, you will find it at a place called Tallis, T-A-L-S. But don't worry about, it's in New York City, and it's a bookbinding supply where I buy things like that bone folder and all sorts of stuff that are really handy. But it'll be in the links, and you'll check it out. It's a really fun place. Yeah,
that's really great tip. That's a real, like, behind the scenes illustrator tip. Thank you so much. So I just want to read some things to you, Melissa. I'm not sure if you're able to see the chat right this second, but we are so grateful, Melissa, for your time and inspiration. Thank you for a beautiful morning. That's from Jennifer Jowett. And Jan Campanelli says, Melissa, you were so fun. And everyone's saying they can't wait to try it. Rebecca, thank you so much. Cool birds. And we've just got so many things in our chat. People are very excited. And I have to say thank you so much for joining us this December. It's very close to holidays, a lot's going on. But so many of you joined this morning, and what a treat, right? To be here live with Melissa and be able to ask her questions and hear her for the first time, because other people will get to see this on a video, but it's not quite the same as being live with Melissa this morning. So it's been an amazing pleasure. I have to say, go look at Melissa's books. You'll get even more inspired to do collage, right? So I recommend, if you haven't seen all of her books, there's so many, obviously she's got a lot, but that could be something you collect as well. Well, we look forward to more books. What are you working on next, Melissa? What's the next?
I'm working on a wonderful book about Corita Kent. So hence the plork was on my mind. And this is a book about her as a teacher. There was an amazing book that came out by Matthew Burgess. Kara, I'm sorry, my mind is too full right now. The illustrator is brilliant. So there's another book about her. This is a different take. It's more about her teaching, but it's been a lot of fun. I feel so lucky. It's another book by Kwame Alexander coming out next year for Poetry Month. And but I want to say, this was so much fun for me. I can't even tell you the only thing that could have made it better was if you were all here. So I hope our paths cross at some time. And
well, you
and
will come down
I
to the
trust they will.
society.
Yeah.
You know, we want
Yeah.
you to come in person, Melissa. I'll get any
Oh,
materials.
good.
I know the society will always supply materials for illustrators who come, so it'll be very exciting to collect and look at all the collage materials we have. So actually, perhaps next year we could have a picture book spotlight in person. I know that's not always easy for everybody to come to the Society of Illustrators, but for sure, if you're there, those of you who've already done programs with our illustrators know that it's an amazing opportunity. So at this moment, I just want to really say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate, please have the most amazing time and with family. If you're in the snow, make a snowman. And if you're traveling, safe travels. And how about you, Melissa? Are you staying put for the holidays?
Staying put, and I ditto Claire's, stay well and enjoy this beautiful season. It's such a rare instance to kind of go inside and be inside and play with in your studios or whatever it is that you do, but I kind of love winter for that. It's nice inward time. Yeah, it's good. All right.
Well,
thank you
so much, everybody. Take care. See you in 2023. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.